The power to charm the female has sometimes been more important than the power to conquer other males in battle. Light will be thrown on the origin of man and his history. How odd it is that anyone should not see that all observation must be for or against some view if it is to be of any service. Or she may accept, as appearances would sometimes lead us to believe, not the male which is the most attractive to her, but the one which is the least distasteful. Origin of man now proved. Metaphysics must flourish. He who understands Baboon would do more towards metaphysics than Locke. Ignorance more frequently begets confidence than does knowledge. Two distinct elements are included under the term inheritance: the transmission and the development of characters. What wretched doings come from the ardor of fame, the love of truth alone would never make one man attack another bitterly. The limit of man's knowledge in any subject possesses a high interest which is perhaps increased by its close neighborhood to the realms of imagination. Englishmen rarely cry, except under the pressure of the acutest grief, whereas in some parts of the continent the men shed tears much more readily and freely. Whilst man, however well behaved, at best is but a monkey shaved. It is difficult to believe in the dreadful but quiet war lurking just below the serene facade of nature. Often a cold shudder has run through me, and I have asked myself whether I may have not devoted myself to a fantasy. I have always maintained that, excepting fools, men did not differ much in intellect, only in zeal and hard work, and I still think there is an eminently important difference. But a plant on the edge of a desert is said to struggle for life against the drought, though more properly it should be said to be dependent upon the moisture. One hand has surely worked throughout the universe. Only picture to yourself a nice soft wife on a sofa with good fire, and books and music. A fair result can be obtained only by fully stating and balancing the facts and arguments on both sides of each question. The love for all living creatures is the most noble attribute of man. It is not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. A language, like a species, when extinct, never reappears. Physiological experiment on animals is justifiable for real investigation, but not for mere damnable and detestable curiosity. A man who dares to waste 1 hour of life has not discovered the value of life. Sympathy beyond the confines of man, that is, humanity to the lower animals, seems to be one of the latest moral acquisitions. The man who walks with Henslow. It may be conceit, but I believe the subject will interest the public, and I am sure that the views are original. I am dying by inches from not having anybody to talk to about insects. Delight itself, however, is a weak term to express the feelings of a naturalist. Conscience looks backwards and judges past actions, inducing that kind of dissatisfaction, which if weak we call regret, and if severe remorse. Traveling ought also to teach him distrust, but at the same time he will discover how many truly good-natured people there are. All that at present can be said with certainty is that, as with the individual, so with the species, the hour of life has run its course, and is spent. The moral sense perhaps affords the best and highest distinction between man and the lower animals. Till facts are grouped and called, there can be no prediction. The only advantage of discovering laws is to foretell what will happen and to see bearing of scattered facts. It is like confessing to a murder. As for a future life, every man must judge for himself between conflicting vague probabilities. I can remember the very spot in the road, whilst in my carriage, when to my joy the solution occurred to me. I must begin with a good body of facts and not from a principle, in which I always suspect some fallacy, and then as much deduction as you please. Hence, a traveler should be a botanist, for in all views plants form the chief embellishment. Animals manifestly enjoy excitement, and suffer from a null and may exhibit curiosity. On your life, underestimating the proclivities of finches is likely to lead to great internal hemorrhaging. I have at least, as I hope, done good service in aiding to overthrow the dogma of separate creations. When the sexes differ in beauty, in the power of singing, or in producing what I have called instrumental music, it is almost invariably the male which excels the female. I conclude that the musical notes and rhythms were first acquired by the male or female progenitors of mankind for the sake of charming the opposite sex. A cell is a complex structure, with its investing membrane, nucleus, and nucleolus. Many kinds of monkeys have a strong taste for tea, coffee, and spirituous liqueurs. I have long discovered that geologists never read each other's works, and that the only object in writing a book is a proof of earnestness. We have happy days, remember good dinners. The instruction at Edinburgh was altogether by lectures, and these were intolerably dull, with the exception of those on chemistry. The age-old and noble thought of "I will lay down my life to save another" is nothing more than cowardice. I have no great quickness of apprehension or wit which is so remarkable in some clever men, for instance Huxley. I feel most deeply that the whole subject is too profound for the human intellect. A dog might as well speculate on the mind of Newton. A republic cannot succeed till it contains a certain body of men imbued with the principles of justice and honor. Multiply, vary, let the strongest live and the weakest die. I cannot persuade myself that a beneficent and omnipotent God would have designedly created that a cat should play with mice. You ask about my opinion on vivisection. I quite agree that it is justifiable for real investigations on physiology, but not for mere damnable and detestable curiosity. If man had not been his own classifier, he would never have thought of founding a separate order for his own reception. In the survival of favored individuals and races, during the constantly recurring struggle for existence, we see a powerful and ever-acting form of selection. Nothing can be more hopeless than to attempt to explain this similarity of pattern in members of the same class, by utility or by the doctrine of final causes. Anyone whose disposition leads him to attach more weight to unexplained difficulties than to the explanation of facts will certainly reject my theory. It may be doubted whether any character can be named which is distinctive of a race and is constant. Thus disbelief crept over me at a very slow rate, but at last was complete. The rate was so slow that I felt no distress, and have never since doubted even for a single second that my conclusion was correct. It may be doubted that there are many other animals which have played so important a part in the history of the world as have these lowly organized creatures. To my deep mortification, my father once said to me, "You care for nothing but shooting, dogs, and rat catching, and you will be a disgrace to yourself and all your family." It appears to me that doing what little one can to increase the general stock of knowledge is as respectable an object of life as one can in any likelihood pursue. But I am very poorly today and very stupid, and I hate everybody and everything. One lives only to make blunders. I would give absolutely nothing for the theory of natural selection, if it requires miraculous additions at any one stage of descent. Attention, if sudden and close, graduates into surprise, and this into astonishment, and this into stupefied amazement. Thus we have given to man a pedigree of prodigious length, but not, it may be said, of noble quality. It strikes me that all our knowledge about the structure of our earth is very much like what an old hen would know of the 100-acre field in a corner of which she is scratching. I have steadily endeavored to keep my mind free so as to give up any hypothesis, however much beloved, and I cannot resist forming one on every subject, as soon as the facts are shown to be opposed to it. It is a truly wonderful fact, the wonder of which we are apt to overlook from familiarity, that all animals and all plants throughout all time and space should be related to each other in groups subordinate to group. From my early youth I have had the strongest desire to understand or explain whatever I observed, to group all facts under some general laws. The most energetic workers I have encountered in my world travels are the vegetarian miners of Chile. Mere chance alone would never account for so habitual and large an amount of difference as that between varieties of the same species. Light may be shed on man and his origins. Probably all the organic beings which have ever lived on this earth have descended from some one primordial form, into which life was first breathed. Man, wonderful man, must collapse into nature's cauldron. He is no deity, he is no exception. It is impossible to conceive of this immense and wonderful universe as the result of blind chance or necessity. Why, if species have descended from other species by insensibly fine gradations, do we not everywhere see innumerable transitional forms? It's not the strongest, but the most adaptable that survive. I never gave up Christianity until I was 40 years of age. I think it can be shown that there is such an unerring power at work in natural selection, which selects exclusively for the good of each organic being. The more one thinks, the more one feels the hopeless immensity of man's ignorance. The normal food of man is vegetable. The school as a means of education to me was simply a blank. Nothing exists for itself alone, but only in relation to other forms of life. Much love, much trial, but what an utter desert is life without love. I always make special notes about evidence that contradicts me, supportive evidence I can remember without trying. At no time am I a quick thinker or writer. Whatever I have done in science has solely been by long pondering, patience, and industry. Every new body of discovery is mathematical in form, because there is no other guidance we can have. Free will is to mind what chance is to matter. I have been speculating last night what makes a man a discoverer of undiscovered things. As far as I can conjecture, the art consists in habitually searching for the causes and meaning of everything which occurs. If I had life to live over again, I would give my life to poetry, to music, to literature, and to art to make life richer and happier. In my youth I steeled myself against them and thought them so much waste. The fact of evolution is the backbone of biology, and biology is thus in the peculiar position of being a science founded on an improved theory. Is it then a science or faith? Building a better mousetrap merely results in smarter mice. There is a grandeur in this view of life. From so simple a beginning, endless forms most beautiful are being evolved. The willing horse is always overworked. The most powerful natural species are those that adapt to environmental change without losing their fundamental identity, which gives them their competitive advantage. Even people who aren't geniuses can outthink the rest of mankind if they develop certain thinking habits. I am not apt to follow blindly the lead of other men. In the struggle for survival, the fittest win out at the expense of their rivals because they succeed in adapting themselves best to their environment. The world will not be inherited by the strongest, it will be inherited by those most able to change. Some call it evolution, and others call it God. The most important factor in survival is neither intelligence nor strength but adaptability. Only the fittest will survive. Unusual degree. This family became divided 8 generations. If it wasn't for seasickness, all the world would be sailors. July 24th, 1833, the Beagle sailed from Maldonado, and on August the 3rd she arrived off the mouth of the Rio Negro. It is uphill work writing books. This preservation of favorable variations and the rejection of injurious variations, I call natural selection.